Hilda, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
So Winnipeg has been deadly for Indigenous women in recent weeks. What needs to be done to keep women immediately safer?
You know, there has to be immediate actions that will address, the vulnerabilities of Indigenous women and girls to keep them safe, and governments have a responsibility to act, to provide that resourcing to support Indigenous women and girls' safety and security. So in order for Indigenous women and girls to feel safe and secure, there has to be adequate resources and supports within our communities, especially if they're in vulnerable situations, a safe place to go to feel supported and to protect them as well.
Now, the MMIWG inquiry found that policing and a lack of resources is in part responsible for the systematic issues that keep playing out over and over. Now, it is 3 years since that report was released. What's your take on the progress that's been made?
I think, there has been very little progress made, which is, really heart-wrenching, especially as an Indigenous woman, who's been advocating for decades on this file of ending all forms of gender and race-based violence against Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited and gender-diverse people. The inaction results in the continuance of violence against our Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited and gender-diverse people. And basically, inaction results in the continuance of the murder of Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited and gender-diverse people as well. So, and there's such a lack of political will, for governments, all governments, including Indigenous governments, to act. And it's imperative. There's a sense of urgency for them to act now. We cannot continue to die at alarming rates and experience violence at alarming rates due to inaction.
So how have all levels of government failed to address these issues?
Well, I think, when we have the 231 calls for justice, which are legal imperatives, they're based on evidence from the testimony of family members and survivors and two-spirited and gender-diverse people and experts and knowledge keepers, that participated in the inquiry. So they have a responsibility to act with respect to the implementation of the 231 calls for justice. So if they're failing to act, then they're failing all Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited and gender-diverse people in this country.
All right, so Hilda, what is it going to take for them to listen and act?
I think, we really need to come from a rights-based approach and, if needed, involve international human rights bodies to ensure that, governments act because they're obligated to act. And if they don't act within a legal process that was developed in this country to end the ongoing genocide of Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited and gender-diverse people, we must involve, international human rights bodies outside of this country to force them to act.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Hilda, thank you so much again for taking a few minutes today.
Thank you so much.